Welcome back. Telefomin MP Solan Mirisim has appealed to the government to give special considerations to remote districts so maximum services can be delivered instead of a lesser percentage. He says for districts like Telefomin, the remoteness causes almost 40% of district services improvement program funds to be used for freight alone, leaving the other half for service delivery. The MP made the call this morning while presenting his district's 2015 DSIP acquittals to the Department of Implementation and Rural Development. Mark Kayok reports.
The acquittal of district services improvement funds is a requirement that ensures the next lot of funding from the national government. The Telefomin MP and his district officer today acquitted for last year's funds to DIRD, and in doing so pointed out the fact that the government's DSIP program is working in Telefomin as well as other districts in the country.
DSIP is working in the remote districts like Telefomin, where my people in Telefomin are actually seeing a lot of changes. It's not only Telefomin, but I believe other districts and other provinces within the country as well.
Despite this, he made an appeal to the government for special considerations to be given to very remote districts that do not have road accessibility. Mr. Mirisim said almost half of his district funds go towards freight living, only half for service delivery, and some from the freight subsidy would be welcome for such districts.
There's no road, no seaport, but only everything goes by air only. 40% of that 10 million goes to charters and freight. So to deliver everything down to the district in all form is impossible. So out of that, only 60% to deliver to all the 4 LLG is not easy. So my appeal is if this government can try to increase, if they give us 10 million, if they can give another 2 or 3 million on top of 10 million for the freight subsidy or some hardship payment on top of that 10 million, so that those money goes to the freight, so we can deliver the maximum amount of infrastructure, the maximum amount of services that we can deliver to our people.
The IRD Secretary Paul Sai endorsed the idea put forward by the MP, saying the 10 million kina given to its districts must have equivalent values for both urban and rural districts.
We really need that continuation and that component of assistance for the least developed areas. And I must say here, my minister is very much up to date with it. He changed the name from least developed to what they call equalization. So what you said that Mosby South gives him 10 million, Telefomin gives him 10 million, but there is disparity in terms of cost of delivery.
Telefomin is one district that has been very faithful with its DSIP acquittals since 2013, and the district aims to acquit for this year's funds before going to the 2017 general elections. Mark Hayok, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
Papua New Guinea wants to develop meaningful trade with Australia. Trade, Commerce and Industry Minister Richard Maru told his Australian counterpart Minister Keith Pitt, who is on a 2-day visit to PNG. Maru says over the years PNG has enjoyed a good trade relationship with Australia, but wants this to be formulated into a policy document so that trade deficit can be minimised.
The fact that we don't have a good or a trade agreement between our two countries has helped. Trade over the last 40 years has just evolved rather than trade being based on clear policies. Our government's intention is to grow and deepen the trade with Australia, and that we must do on the back of a very clear framework and a clear agreement between our two countries. I know Australia has been pushing the PESA Plus agreement and negotiations. I've made it clear this afternoon to the Minister that Papua New Guinea is not interested in PESA Plus. In fact, I've issued instructions that none of our officers will be engaged in any more PESA Plus negotiations with the region. I think Papua New Guinea is not a small island state. We need to be treated quite differently. We don't want to be part of PESA Plus because I don't see any net benefits to Papua New Guinea by involving ourselves in a regional agreement. We want to talk about a bilateral trade agreement with Australia that will ensure we grow employment, create employment for Papua New Guineans. That will ensure that the trade between our two countries in terms of the trade deficit, which is currently in Australia's favour by 6 billion annually, I want to reduce the trade deficit. And that means Australia has to help us export more Papua New Guinea goods to Australia.
Well, Minister Maru is very passionate about local agriculture, particularly growing and increasing things like pineapples, cattle, dairy. As someone who comes from an agricultural background, as a former farmer, I understand the passion for that industry. In Australia, it is one of the key pillars of our economy moving forward. It's an area for growth for both countries. Certainly look forward to continuing discussions and negotiations.
State entity Kumul Consolidated Holdings has signed a memorandum of understanding with Hong Kong property developer Shin Kong Pacific Investment Limited. The MOU is to explore the construction and development of a 5-star hotel property consisting of up to 500 rooms classified into different categories and coupled with various facilities including function rooms, a convention area, gym, spa, restaurants and shops. Management of the proposed hotel will be undertaken by a highly reputable global hotel operator. Kumul Consolidated Holdings Managing Director Gary Hersey said their next step will be to locate a viable project site. He said they are expecting the first stage of the development to be ready for APEC in 2018 and will work with public-private partnerships to achieve their goals, bringing immediate benefits to the local economy. Turning overseas, the US President Barack Obama has called on Republicans to reject their presidential nominee Donald Trump, saying he's unfit for the top job.
No, that's right, Virginia, and it all stems back to this controversy that started Thursday last week at the Democratic Convention when Muslim parents spoke about the sacrifice of their son, who is a US soldier killed in Iraq. Donald Trump hit back, saying he'd been viciously attacked by these parents, and they've been trading blows over the past few days. Donald Trump is no stranger to controversy, but this one seems to be sticking. A number of Republicans have denounced his comments. John McCain, former presidential nominees Lindsey Graham, Jeb Bush, John Kasich. And today, President Obama weighed in and said to those Republicans, if you're prepared to denounce Donald Trump, if his comments are so odious to you, why don't you go so far as to endorse him, and started describing what he thinks Donald Trump would be like as a president and why he's not qualified. Let's have a listen to what Barack Obama had to say earlier today.
The Republican nominee is unfit to serve as president. I said so last week, and he keeps on proving it. You know, there have been Republican presidents with whom I disagreed with, but I didn't have a doubt that they could function as president.
Barack Obama is now obviously campaigning for Hillary Clinton to get her elected and try and defend his own legacy. And Donald Trump, it seems today at least, has tried to quieten down on the issue of this feud he's having with the Khan family. He spoke at a rally earlier today and he didn't mention the issue. He did start his rally, though, by showing people a Purple Heart medal that he says was given to him by a veteran shortly before the event started, trying to show there that he does support US veterans and try and wind back some of the damage that's been done. But for one Republican, the damage has definitely been done. Today, the first sitting member of Congress, Richard Hanna from New York, Republican, said, and he's the first one to do this, that instead of voting for Donald Trump on November 8, he's going to cast his vote for Hillary Clinton.
Stay with us on NBC National News.